This is Jake Pazicki with an ACT Science conflicting viewpoints question. Now, this is one of the easier types of conflicting viewpoints questions where they're just going to ask you about, literally, they're going to ask you about some information about one of the scientists' perspectives. So in this case, they're asking you, scientist 2 argues against the corporate introduction of non-native trees by arguing that blank. And all you have to do is look at each of these answers and see if scientist 2 argues that thing. Usually it's even fairly explicit. So let's go answer choice by answer choice to see what makes sense. So does scientist 2 argue that the introduction of non-native trees actually increases biodiversity, creating a supportive environment for local plants and animals? We actually see that scientist 2 says the exact opposite. If we see, okay, he says that these new and foreign trees often damage the ecosystems and decrease biodiversity. So, and that they don't support the local species of animals. So that would be a negative for both of those things. And local plants too, because it actually talks about how it chokes out many of the non-shade plants, and that local rivers kill nearby plants and microorganisms. So that is a big no for answer choice A. So answer choice B. The damage done by afforestation in non-native trees is insignificant compared to the damage that corporations would otherwise inflict on natural forests. We don't see that anywhere in scientist 2's perspective, but we do see that in scientist 1's perspective. So they talk about the planting of new forests for harvesting through afforestation assures that these companies have trees to harvest without destroying natural forest environments. So if this was a question asking us if scientist 1 argued that in support of the corporate introduction of non-native trees, that would be the right answer. But it's the wrong answer because we're asked about scientist 2, and scientist 2 is arguing against the introduction, not arguing for it. Answer choice C. The damage done by the introduction of non-native trees is not as significant as many scientists believe. It doesn't seem to be what scientist 2 is saying at all. Scientist 2 is giving all of these reasons why non-native trees are damaging to the environments they're introduced into. And so I'm hoping the answer is D here. The introduction of pesticides is just as damaging to local rivers as the introduction of acidic pine leaves. Let's see what they say. The pesticides which get into damage local food chains. So these trees also use pesticides which damage local food chains. The introduction of pesticides is just as damaging to local rivers as the introduction of acidic pines. So it doesn't explicitly doesn't say that it's explicitly damaging to rivers, but it is by far our most correct answer choice here, because they talk about the way that pesticides damage the food chains, which actually is the same thing that's happening in the rivers by killing the microorganisms in the plants. So it's a loose tie, but it's definitely the best answer choice we have, and it's the most correct. So that's our answer choice D.